Well, yeah, people are shaped by the environments in which they operate, and the behaviours that we demonstrate at any given moment in time will depend on the environment that we're in, and the relationships that we have around us. You know, I mean, if you were giving me a load of grief right now, I would be quite a different person,
Yeah.
and I'm behaving quite differently in this conversation.
Wait, I'll give you
And
that
so
grief later.
it's about, yeah, thanks. So it's about how do we think about how we go into a conversation with somebody, or how we work within a team, or how we create the environment and the cultural environment at work in order to get the best out of people. And that's what we do at the Harrison Network is we get in alongside people and teams and organisations to try and help them shift some of those experiences, shift some of those conversations, and shift some of those cultures ultimately.
Hi, and welcome to the Sunday Lunch Project Manager podcast for Sunday, the 22nd of January 2023. This is your host, Nigel Creaser, and today we've got Lucy Harrison with us, the soft skills guru. Some of you will have been long-term listeners and will be aware that I've started this podcast on a product called Anchor. So when I started, I was working out how do I do it? What do I need to do to get a podcast out there? All these different things. How do I actually get it out into different podcasting areas? And how do I potentially make some money out of podcasting? And I discovered Anchor. And the answer to every one of my questions really was simple, and it was Anchor. Anchor provides a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distribution your podcast if you're interested in doing one. Best of all, it's free. It's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. I can do it on my phone. I can do it on the laptop. It's fab. And now Anchor can match with great sponsors who can advertise on the podcast and hopefully support and pay for some of the stuff that's going on. That means you can get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that's what I'm doing by reading this ad. Anchor will pay me for doing this advert. So the way I use Anchor, and a recent thing that I've started to experiment with, is using the contributor section where someone rings in and leaves a message. You'll have heard earlier on maybe one of my podcasts, people's contributions and questions and queries and thanks. So it's a great way of using it, really. Over the time, I've recorded directly into the app. I've recorded and uploaded. I've recorded on my phone and uploaded at the same time. So it's really flexible. It's for you to do it when you want, where you want, and however you want. So if you've wanted to start a podcast and make some money out of it, why not go to anchor.fm/start. That's anchor.fm/start to join me and the diverse community of podcasters already using it. Okay, I can't wait to hear it. So what's been going on over the past couple of weeks? I've been playing around with a few different things. Actually, the AI for my AI narrated version of my book is out there and in a few people's ears. I don't know how you want to describe it. I've discovered I'm currently going through and doing a bit of a longer edit on it, having listened to it a little bit and found a couple of things that need tweaking. The fact that the AI narration can't say the word diarize or delegate very well, so I have to phonetically spell it out. So there's a few of those that I'm tweaking at the minute, but still usable. It's interesting because I also find some typos from the original document and a few slight tweaks to wording. So I'll probably update the rest of the books, the paperback and the e and the hardback versions as I'm going along. So there'll be kind of a second editions later on in the year. It doesn't take away the value of what's in there. So that's quite interesting. I've discovered now that I can use the Google narrated version. I can push it out through I think it's Find Away Voices. I think I'll probably be using to lots of other audiobook providers, including Apple, I think, as well. So that'll be cool. They're happy with that AI narrated. I think Spotify and all those, so it'll be pretty much everywhere once I finish doing this longer edit. Amazon, ACX and their Audible platform still doesn't allow AI narrated, but the fact that everyone else has done it, I think it won't be long before they join in with that as well. Obviously, it's always highlighted that it's AI narrated. It's not quite as emotive, it's not quite as crisp as a proper narrated one, but considering it takes 2 hours to generate the narration, that's pretty good trade-off, I think. I'll also make it available on my PayHip site, where you can download it directly and if people want to get it. So that's been interesting, playing with that. And I've been playing with a few of the AI stuff. ChatGPT, which I've just been messing about with really, but I've seen some practical applications that I'll start using. Summarising copy for oh goodness me, brain's tiring this morning. Copy for things like LinkedIn posts and things like that. So I'll play with that. Very powerful, very, very interesting. It's a really good tool, I think, for this kind of stuff. And then I will be moving on to, I have got a couple of other books and a couple of other blog posts I need to get sorted this month. When I say books, I mean start looking at them. I've also started thinking about the Ellington Brasher book a bit more. Been using another one of the AI products, or two of them actually. I've used DALL-E, which, as I was saying to someone the other way, it's spelled D-A-L-L-E, and I didn't realise and think it's images, and it generates images from text, and DALL-E, as in the painter. Sometimes I'm very slow. Again, using that, seems the initial thing was kind of ask it something from text to create a picture, and it seems to do something quite passable. I've also used the other one called, oh goodness me, it was using the Discord server the way they do it, and it essentially I've gone blank on what it was. You use text again to describe it, and I described what I'd kind of a little bit of an outline of the front page of the front cover of what I'd like the book to be, and actually it came up with a reasonably passable Mid-Journey is what it's called. I knew it'd come back to me. Image that it wasn't quite right for what I would have done, but had I wanted to show an image which essentially was someone on a phone with a plane in the background on fire, with emergency services around it, and it gave a reasonable looking image. So it's the possibilities are endless with these AI tools at the moment, and the way they're being levered and used, and I think it's great for starting stuff. And I might even start having to play with project status reports and see how it can do those for you, which will be interesting as well. So that's kind of the things that I've been playing around with, getting back into the year after the holidays. Got a few interviews in the bag in the last couple of weeks. I have quite a long interview list coming down the road, and so really looking forward to getting those done and getting those out to you. It's wrong to actually highlight specifics of them, but just the all of the guests seem to be bringing in some great stuff, and there's some really challenging thinking going on to apply there. The other thing, I've not done it yet, but I've been asked to ask one of the questions on the delivery experts. Thank you, Jonathan Norman. I think you listen, for inviting me to do that. Quite honoured to be able to ask a question to that group of experts. So I'll be doing that in the next few days, and that'll be out. Not sure when. I think there's a batch from going to be pulled together and then pushed out. So if you've not heard of delivery experts, pop on to just search the delivery experts on LinkedIn. You'll find the page there, and essentially it's a question posed to a group of us, and I can't remember how many there are, but each of us give a view of our view of the question on video in a product called Opiner, and it's really quite interesting. So an interesting way to get alternative opinions rather than my text and things like that. It's only a little 3-minute bites of each of the videos, so jump onto that. And I think that is probably it. I didn't think I had much to say today, but as ever, I gibber on. I'll pass you on to Lucy, and we can talk about soft skills, because obviously soft skills from a project manager point of view, Lucy's book, Soft Skills for Tough Jobs, PM role can be tough, and the soft skills are critical to it. So enjoy. Speak again. Bye. Today, I am delighted to welcome Lucy Harrison to the show. Lucy's aim is to inspire and equip 1 million people to think, act and lead with more humanity, making the workplace more collaborative, entrepreneurial and creative. It's a bit of a goal. She has been working with teams and their leaders for more than 20 years, using experiential, applied and facilitated learning, and founded the award-winning team and leadership consultancy, the Harrison Network, in 2014. The Harrison Network exists to inspire people to bring more of their humanity into the workplace. By doing so, they facilitate the development of cultures in which people can thrive and help change the world. Given the right organisational culture, people will thrive, is their belief. And a culture of self-awareness, responsibility, support and joint sense of purpose allows people to take things to a higher level. A culture of selfishness leads to ultimate downfall. I think we all can agree with that. She is proud that her work with entrepreneurial thinking and psychological safety is beginning to be recognised beyond the nuclear and outdoor industries where it's all began. If you know Cumbria, as it says here, you'll understand why those two industries are connected. And I know a little bit of it about it. We'll talk about that as well. And she's also author of best-selling book, Soft Skills for Tough Jobs, which I've got a copy on my grubby hands here, which is in my other pile of books to read. So I'm going to ask lots of stupid questions about things I've read at the beginning, but then not finished it. It's centred around an original interpersonal approach called NAILED. And we'll talk about that in a little while. And when she's not coaching, she's facilitating and training. She can be found on the hills or on the water in her beloved Lake District. Lucy, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Nigel. That was quite an intro. I don't think I've ever had one like that before. Thank you.
Yeah, well, it's good. I tend to steal all of these things from people's own blurbs that they put, and then when you realise when you mash them all together, there's quite a lot to say. There's a few.
Yeah.
There's probably it can be quite fun with that, because then people go, oh yeah, I'd forgotten I'd written that in their blurb or on their website or whatever. So they go for a while. So tell us a little bit more. Obviously, you're in Cumbria or around that region. So tell us about where you are, a little bit more background.
Well, at the moment, I am sat in Keswick on a rainy day, which, if you know Cumbria at all, you know that it can be quite rainy.
Yeah.
Live here with family and dog, and have done for 20 years. So, absolutely love the Lake District.
Yeah.
But I moved here to work in the outdoor industry.
Right.
And did event and project management in the outdoors, and helping people to different companies doing team building and event management and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was good.
So when you say outdoor, is that sort of like sort of trail running type stuff, marathon stuff and that sort of thing, or was it outdoor pursuit kind of things?
Back in the day when I used to do this all the time, it was a lot more around canoeing, climbing, team building exercises, so barrels and planks,
Right.
as we would refer to it. So utilising the love of getting outdoors to bring teams outside and get them communicating more effectively, and a lot of the time it was a jolly, it was good fun outside.
Yeah.
It's become a lot different these days. It's a lot more, you can get a lot more out of it when you dig in more deeply. But when I was involved 20 years ago, it was very much about, let's go outside and have some fun.
Yeah, I suppose I'm thinking back. I went on one in Windermere, I think it was, as a company that was doing stuff up there when I was working at Barclays, and we went and did a weekend there and did all manner of different things. There was a lot of drinking going on as well. I remember that. The first time I'd been in that area, and it's always it was. I think it's one of those things. I don't know what your thoughts are. Whenever I go to anything that is kind of team building, in the quotes that some people get a little bit grumpy about, I just find you get out of it what you put into it. And you kind of got to go, right, okay, if I'm at this, I'm going to be part of it. I'm going to try it. I'm going to kind of be entertaining. But I've also seen people sitting there, arms crossed, and really resistant about it. They've been sent on this course. They don't want to be on this course. And maybe it's a bit of a stereotype on it. But then the kind of, even from that, I think by the end of those sort of things, they end up getting something out of it. Because even if it still gets their mind out of the office and out of their normal day job, and it even gives them a little bit of time to think differently to what they would normally do.
Absolutely, and when they're run well and they're facilitated well, then you can actually get quite a lot out of them.
Yeah.
The risk is, and what used to happen more back in the 90s, was the risk that you had getting outside and doing things like climbing and kayaking and canoeing isn't for everybody.
Yeah.
And there would almost be this peer pressure that you had to get involved. And I think it possibly put off as many people as it helped.
Yeah, I suppose.
And I think these days we're more aware of that, that diverse nature of all of us, and how do you include people more?
Yeah.
And so the industry has changed a lot in the last 20 years.
Yeah, I suppose from the diversity point of view, as you're saying, I'm thinking that people's body type, people's fitness levels, people's age, people's like or dislike of the outdoors will significantly affect what people will get out of it, won't it? And I suppose nowadays, generally,
Absolutely.
that diversity that we are much more aware of means actually, I know we're diving rabbit hole, straight away, but that's all we do. I've got a session that I was running with my team, and we've got a team, a diverse team, who are some southern based, some northern based, etc. And we're looking at different things to do. And then I was kind of thinking, and I saw one of my guests I had on a couple of weeks ago, Jude Jameson, where she has a training where she takes people to her stud where she's got horses, and it teaches people how to work with horses and how different it is with a horse and things like that. And I thought about that, and I was thinking, well, should we get the team to do that? And then I was thinking, I know I've got a few city dwellers in the team, and I'm thinking, are they really, really going to hate that and not get something out of it? And then I was thinking of, but then you sometimes you can't cater to everyone all the time, but you've got to be willing to accept the fact that you might not get the best out of some people in certain situations, and you need to do something slightly different. Do you agree on that sort of thing?
Yeah, and I think it depends a lot on the team and on where they're at and the people within it and the appetite of the people within it. And I think if you understand that well, and you adjust what you're trying to, what you're doing to make sure it works for that group of people, then I think these things can be really positive. I mean, I had a group out a few weeks back, and part of a longer team development program with them, and we pushed them out of their comfort zone to take them up a mountain in Scotland. But not only that, we had them doing a lot of navigation along the way. So we had people teaching them navigation tricks, and then they had to navigate up, and different people would navigate different legs, and we had a real diverse mix of people on there. Some people who tramping on the Scottish fells was what they did day in, day out. For other people, they'd never done it before. They'd never done anything like it before. And it was really pushed them out of the comfort zone. But that experience of all of them having to kind of get up the hill as a team, and do that as a team was something that actually gave them a really good experience, and was something they continued to talk about afterwards. So I think it's finding the right experience for the right job, really, what you're trying to achieve with that particular group, person or team.
Yeah.
I think that's when we talk about experiential learning now, that's what we mean. How do you choose the right experience to give people something, a microcosm of what they might experience in work, but to give them that out of work, but in something completely different, so that you can start to emerge some of the behaviours and look at some of the interactions and interplay that people are having, and then work on that.
Yeah, because it's very difficult, and I've had it before where we've done it, where just going, right, how can we do stuff better as a team? And I've been guilty of it myself, trying to do it, because sometimes that's all the resources you've got available to you, and it's kind of, right, how do we get better? How do we improve this? And we've been going through it a few months now, with different things, changes in that need to be adopted, and how do we do it in the best way, and things like that. And sometimes the actual that frame of, well, how do we do better, doesn't help, does it? And whereas actually, again, you draw on things like the Lego serious play and things like that type of activities, where you go, right, let's build what we've got now. And I know when Simon was saying, you build a flow, and then you go, right, that's how it works, and then you talk about it, and then you get through it, and you go, oh, well, that bit there, why are we doing that back and two 15 times? And it's like, don't know, right, you can change it, but you might get it drawing on a board, but you certainly you need something. I don't know, it's something to bring things alive, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And it shows different things. So a lot of the time we work on the systems or the relationships or the interplay between people and in teams. And for some people, they find it easy to zoom out and see that, and for other people, they really struggle. So giving them something to hang it on, like Lego, like drawing or plasticine, or taking them outdoors, giving them an activity. When you've got something to hang it on and experience it in, it helps you see something differently. It helps you look at it, because it kind of takes it out of your normal frame of reference, and suddenly you start looking at it differently and go, oh, I know what I'm looking at now.
I think it's kind of draws the line, the little bit of storytelling that everyone talks about. Us being humans, we latch onto stories, and you use examples and parodies or things like that to explain a situation and go through a different way of doing something. And they kind of, I don't know, I'm guessing it works in the same sort of way, that it lets your brain picture and visualize something that the words on the paper, most of us struggle to be able to understand something without some kind of visual reference. I know personally, in my mind, I see things there as visual, and I think sometimes because I know it sounds silly. I was listening to a football match, listened to England playing the other day, and I realised that it is important when I'm listening to the radio, and I'm not a massive football fan, but when I do listen, when I hear I tune into what the commentators saying when they're saying, right, so whichever team on the other side on the right wing, over on the right wing, right, okay, right, I know now they're attacking over on the right wing. That means that team's going from right to left now, and that's where, and I can, in my mind, I've got a football pitch on my head, and I can kind of see the little bodies running around and that, and kind of that visual, not picture perfect, but that visual concept in there helps me be able to listen to that and enjoy it much more, because I can see the action, if for want of a better word.
It was the same today. I had I was working with a group of young people, and they were being briefed on a project, and as the briefing was happening, I was struggling. I kind of knew what the brief was, and I was struggling to really get hold of it. And I asked the chap doing the briefing to tell us a story about, tell me what you mean, tell me a story about what this looks like when it's either working or not working. And so he put it into that, and he was able to tell a story about, okay, your project is to look into this. This is what it looks like when it's working. and here's a story about something that's happened in the organisation when it's working, and here's a story about when it's not working. What I want you to do is to find out why. And suddenly you could see people go, right, okay, I get it now.
Pennies dropping all over the place.
They could understand the story because they could put themselves into that position.
Yeah.
Whereas when it was being described to them, that kind of meta description was like, I'm struggling with all those words.
Yeah, so. I think it is really hard sometimes to be able to solve a problem that's written down on a piece of paper. It's sorry, we dive down into the outdoor side of it and straight away because I kind of quite enjoy that whole getting outdoors and doing a bit of moving around. I'm just curious to know on that, and the event management on that is it's interesting because I was talking today actually to some of my team about the fact that the way I look at, because we were organising birthday parties for my daughters over the last few weeks. Birthday party the weekend before last and one next weekend, and that whole project management skill set that is needed to organise a kid's birthday party it's about scaling event management up to the fact that you're the Olympics or the Olympics opening ceremony or a big Glastonbury or whatever. All of those, it's the skill sets of those events. And I look at things like London Marathon just on a weekend. The event management is right at the sharp end of project management, because I know we have big, like nuclear decommissioning and things like that. You'll have big IT systems that I have going in, but it's kind of the stakeholders involved in an event like London Marathon, an event like whatever. It's kind of there's a lot of them, and they're all at one time. And that, whereas when you're rolling out something,
there's no slipping.
If it's IT and you're rolling out a bit of IT, if you're sensible what you're doing, we've got 100 people playing with it this week, and then you gradually increase it. Maybe with some of the again with, but even so with big construction projects, whilst you might have 20,000 people using a road, you kind of know it works. The things that can go wrong at these events can be quite and I imagine that stress level at the time. And I just kind of thinking with the outdoor events, whether it was that sort of thing that you were doing. So tell us a little bit about just to say, tell us a little bit about the Harrison Network and how that came about then. How what made you decide to set up that? And tell us what it is first, really. I said what it tries to do. It doesn't say what it is, does it?
And it's one of those, it's really hard to describe. So for a lot of people, if I say the words, we're a leadership development or team development organisation. They kind of know what we do. So we do coaching and training and workshops and facilitation. And we really get in next to people and teams in order to help them operate more effectively, basically. And it's about shifting the cultures, shifting the environment, because people are shaped by the environments in which they operate, and the behaviours that we demonstrate at any given moment in time will depend on the environment that we're in, and the relationships that we have around us. I mean, if you were giving me a load of grief right now, I would be quite a different person, and I'm behaving quite differently in this conversation.
Wait, I'll give you that grief later.
It's about thanks. So it's about how do we think about how we go into a conversation with somebody, or how we work within a team, or how we create the environment and the cultural environment at work in order to get the best out of people. And that's what we do at the Harrison Network is we get in alongside people and teams and organisations to try and help them shift some of those experiences, shift some of those conversations, and shift some of those cultures ultimately. So we get involved at the sharp end and the dirty end. We don't give you a nice pretty framework and then say, there you go, bye. We actually get involved in the conversations.
So cultures, it fascinates me a little bit. I think it does with a lot of people. I had conversation with Colin D. Ellis. I don't know if you know Colin from he's Australian. He's not. He's Liverpudlian, lives out in Australia, and he did a book called Culture Hacks. And I had him on the show and talked about the book and about culture, and I'm sure it was Colin that we had this conversation with, and it's around the fact that culture can be really strong in a team, but that culture of 10 people, 5 people, whatever, may be completely at odds with the manager, completely at odds with the organisation. They would die for each other. They're just really solid, culturally strong, but actually not what you need. And how, I'm not sure what triggers you to be going into one of these organisations, because I'm guessing you're not going in there and looking at teams of 100 people to change the culture of an organisation. You'll be looking at manageable sized teams, or maybe you are going in that size but it's a bigger thing. But how do you know, because it's like I say, culture isn't what the organisation wants it to be. The culture's what the people, it's like brand, isn't it? When people say your brand as an organisation is what people say about you to other people. It isn't what you say about you. It isn't what your pretty swoosh looks like or anything like that. It's what other people talk about you, and you can't always control that. And culture's kind of similar, isn't it? It's not. It's what your people in an organisation think about and feel and do when someone isn't watching them doing it. How do you know, one, how do these organisations know they need the help? And then secondly, how do you know what they want it to be? Where is it going to move from?
Those are 2 really massive questions.
I know.
We could talk all night about those. So taking the first question of how do people know that the culture needs to shift? Sometimes people are aware of things that are emerging. So whether those are safety incidences, whether those are reports of bullying, whether those are people talking up about this don't like this culture, or whether it's about looking at an aspiration of where they want to be. So sometimes it's for negative reasons that they're suddenly realising, oh, hang on a minute, this is not good enough, or we're getting bad press, and sometimes it's about, well, this isn't, our culture is exactly designed to give us the results we're getting right now, but the results we're getting right now are not the results we want.
Yeah.
So therefore we need to do something differently. And I think that's the piece, are the results that you're getting right now as an organisation the results that you want? And you have to think across the board at those results, whether your retention of people, whether you're looking at, project lifetime, are they finishing on time? Is the quality right? Is the safety okay? Is that, do people feel fulfilled, or are they dropping like flies? All of those kind of things will dictate what are the results of your culture. And if those aren't the results that you want, or if the environment is shifting and the organisation needs to change to keep up, quite often you need the culture to be able to shift with it.
Oh, I see that. And I imagine that the second part of the question in some ways is that approach is very different depending on the trigger that is coming in. Because if you've got, and again another conversation having it, if you've got someone who's the managing director of something, and they're coming in going, right, these lot need to shift their attitudes to sort out these problems because it's not changing, and they've dragged you in because this is going wrong and that's going wrong, and these are, and
it's all their fault.
Yeah. I think the conversation at the time was talking about someone who had gone in to help someone with the thing, and it was none of their team would stand up, wouldn't just get on with stuff. They had to be told what to be done all the time, and it was obviously after a little conversation that the reason that they needed to be told was because the person who owned that organisation was a very directive, authoritarian person who always told people and told them what they wanted done, how they wanted it done, and kind of was very, didn't allow people. So people just got into the habit of, well, I've got no choice on what I do. I get told what to do, and I'll wait till I get told. And there was no initiative or anything like that. And then I suppose the other
There's a whole chapter in the book about that. Yeah, it's very common.
I can see how it can happen though, because it's difficult for innovation and initiative in organisations once they get to a certain size. And I've been in this position myself. And your organisation tells you they want you to be entrepreneurial, they want you to be X, they want you to do this, and then you go, right, I'm going to go this, and then you get bollocked because you just did it. You kind of go, oh, hang on. So I thought you wanted me to kind of take a bit of risk, be a bit entrepreneurial, be agile, and all the magic words you get there. But if you don't feel, and I know this goes on to some of the other points, the psychological safety side of it. If you don't feel that you can fail, don't feel that you can do something outside a process, and kind of a little bit maverick, and it's difficult, isn't it? Because as an organisation, you get things like the Sarbanes-Oxleys and all those sort of things, and all of the GDPR and all of the legislation you've got to stick to, that can constrain and make you feel that you just can't do anything on your own accord, even though there is a barrier. But it's understanding those boundaries is really difficult sometimes. And the bigger the organisation gets, the harder it is to encourage it.
And we do a lot of work in nuclear. And you know, there's certain barriers that you really don't want them to cross. I live way too close. So absolutely, and this is it's a massive issue, and I think firstly, if a leader doesn't recognise that if they're asking the organisation to change, then they need to change as well, and if they don't recognise that and they say to us, I want you to come in and sort them out, we don't work with them, so you know, just don't take it on. But secondly, that piece about people telling each other what to do and then wanting people to be entrepreneurial, to try new things, and then it's asking, well, why won't they? Why do they all just do as they're told? It is something we come across an awful lot, and when we talk about the entrepreneurial thinking programs and development that we do with people, we get asked this a lot. How do we do this? And if I go back to what we were talking about a few minutes ago, when we were saying about the culture, is kind of what people talk about and what people say. Actually, some of those systems and processes that are in place about what do you do, you know, how do you apportion blame? How do you deal with it? What's the language that you use around safety incidences? Do you call them, you know, are you looking for to demand and find out who's to blame, or are you looking to learn from it? You know, so all of that actually matters in a culture, and you can help it shifting by changing some of the language, by changing some of the processes, by changing some of the hierarchy, as well as the stories and the experiences and the interactions that we have on a day-to-day basis. So it's not as simple as shifting just people. The environment. That environment, some of it is structured, and you have to look at those structures as well. So it's a big issue. It's huge.
So when you're looking, I'm guessing it's in quotes easier when you're looking at a smaller team. If you're looking at, rather than changing a whole organisation, you've got a finite team, a finance team, a project team, or whatever, and kind of helping them get. Be ready for the change that they're getting, or whatever's going to happen in their different approach. Do you approach things differently depending on what those two different factors, two different types of organisation you're dealing with?
Yeah, my hesitation is because it depends on the people, and we always approach it one conversation at a time. I mean, that's because every conversation that we have matters, and the relationships that we have in those teams matters, between us and them, as well as between them as a team or them, the leadership. Each conversation uncovers something or unlocks something, and when you have more good conversations, more effective conversations, you start to uncover and smooth the way, so that when there are challenges that come in, people don't revert into I'm right, no I'm right competition, defending their positions, but people start to be more curious about, tell me about your thinking, tell me what you think is wrong about what I've just suggested, because I really want to know, because I think maybe my thinking might be wrong, and I'm really curious as to where you're coming from, and how can we use these two different points of view to come to a better solution. But that takes some humility, and that takes
Thanks for listening to that first part of the show, and come back next week. We'll have the second part of Lucy's interview. So enjoy. Cheers now. Bye. Wow, you made it this far. I'm guessing that you enjoyed the show if you have, or maybe you've just left it playing in the background and forgot it was on. But if you did enjoy it and you're inclined to, I'd be delighted if you could share the show with your colleagues. Discoverability with podcasts is quite difficult, especially with a niche one like this. But sharing with your colleagues and letting them have a chance to listen to these fantastic guests would be brilliant. If you've got time, a review on whatever platform you listen to it on would be great too, especially if it's a 5-star one. Again, that makes it easier for people to discover the show when they're searching on there, because the comments raise it up the old search engine optimization on all the different tools. If you are feeling flush, I have a couple of ways you could contribute. One is Patreon, Patreon/Sunday Lunch PM, and you can donate some money to the podcast that way, or you can jump along to my website, nigelcreaser.com, www.nigelcreaser.com, and click on the link to the shop, and in there you've got all my books that I've created in the varying different guises, a number of different ways you can grab a copy of those. And down the bottom I've got the my guests' books, so everyone who's been on here, if they've had a book, I've got a link to their book in there, and Amazon give me a little bit back for when someone buys from them. But more importantly, if you come back next time and listen, I'll be delighted. So I'll leave you alone and let you get on with your day now. Thank you. Bye.
Well, it's goodbye from me, Nigel Creaser, and it's goodbye from him, the Sunday Lunch PM. Goodbye.